It's Lisa, aka 80s Child, coming at you with another review for Suits Season 9, Episode 6, Whatever It Takes. Now, hopefully this background will stay stable. I've really been kind of tweaking around with green screen backgrounds, and unfortunately this photo booth application on the Mac is not very stable, so that's why it might look kind of messed up, but I'm doing the best I can till I can actually get my hands on a green screen. But anyway. So, this episode did not turn out the way I thought it was going to turn out. Because I am very much like the rest of you, very much used to seeing the characters, when they say whatever it takes, they mean whatever it takes. And they usually do some super shady shit to get their shit done. But it's a testament to Portia's writing, it's a testament to the character development of the characters, that they've come as far as they've come. And the fact that they really are like adamantly against doing something that will not only get them in trouble, but will potentially destroy Faith's family. I know that they were all, it was really interesting in this episode to see how all of them, with the exception of Donna, were completely for destroying Faye to get her out at first. But you could tell that when they made the decision, that it was very like in the moment of it was an extremely emotional, fraught, angry moment because they'd already lost so much, and now they've lost an entire partner because Samantha's been fired. So they were acting out of that emotional moment, and I don't think they really thought it through, except maybe for Donna. It wasn't until they were able to have a day to like take a breath and step back and realize what they were doing that I think they realized it was not the wisest decision to make. But anyway, before we go forward, once again, typical housekeeping rules. Don't forget, this is not a spoiler-free site. So if you haven't seen the episode yet, go ahead and hit pause on your screen. Come back to us later after you've seen it. And in order for me to keep on keeping on bringing this great content to you, don't forget, subscribe, my friends, and hit that notification bell. All right, so let's get right into it. Episode 6, Whatever It Takes, and it really got to that point that they were going to do whatever it took. Even Samantha, which was kind of funny considering that she didn't really have the ability to do too much, considering she didn't have the firm's resources and backing behind her at the time, no longer being employed by them at all. But she still has enough friends on the outside, including Robert. Hey, Wendell Pierce, back for an episode. Yes, Wendell Pierce does make a return for this episode, as Robert's saying, to lend her a helping hand, because I think he feels he kind of is obligated, that he owes her for everything she's done for him. He owes her this one back. And it's not just that he's trying to protect her and trying to make sure that she gets back into the firm, but it's also he's trying to make sure that she doesn't do something more stupid to get her in even more trouble. And he's also making sure that Harvey follows through on his promise, especially when he understands the full breadth of the story. Because Harvey did not realize at the time that the reason why she got fired was because, or the reason why Faye found out what she had done was because Harvey decided to blast her ass for it in the middle of the bullpen, like in her office where Faye could easily walk by and see what she did. As Harvey had said later on in the episode, he could have taken her up to the roof and had this conversation. He could have had anywhere, the roof, the bathroom, outside the parking lot. But he chose to, shit all over her in her office, which is glass windows everywhere, So he does feel a tremendous amount of guilt that his actions wound up getting her fired. Even though, I cannot be angry at Faye. I want to be because I don't particularly like her because she's a freaking shrew. But this episode really kind of gives us a better understanding of who Faye is as a person. It still doesn't explain why she's so hardcore against sticking to rules when she obviously didn't stick to a rule herself. I mean, yes, I know it was only the once that she crossed a line, and her reason was a good one. Unlike the firm, where the lawyers, they do stupid shit, not for good reasons, but for the sake of their clients, with the exception of maybe Mike. But it really did give us a much more like rounded understanding of her character, just a little bit more than those square, hard, cold edges. But obviously that's not the last of Faye. She's not done by a long shot. But I think this episode gives us a little more sympathy for her than we had at first. We might not like her any more than we did, but we understand her a little bit better. So right at the beginning of the episode, like very first scene, Faye gives Donna a call to let her know that she has fired Samantha. The reason why she's calling Donna is because she knows that if she comes forward and tells them that she's fired Donna, they will lose their shit. They already hate her enough as it is, and they barely acknowledge her presence or speak to her while she's there. They've already lost enough because of her, so if she has to tell them that she had to fire Samantha, regardless of the fact that she did it for the right reasons, they're not going to care. They're just going to be more pissed off at her. So she figures it'd be better coming from Donna, which it's kind of fucked up. Throw Donna under the bus like that and make her the bearer of bad news. I mean, I know they're not going to take it out on Donna, but to make her shoulder the burden of that's really kind of... I know Donna is always the one that we thought is the person that holds the place together, but it's still not fair. If you're going to be in charge of a company like that or any kind of business, you have to own up to your shit. If you fired someone, you got to stand there, own up to it, explain why, and don't let them browbeat you or be pissed off. If you are in the right, as you said to Katrina, if you are in the right, which honestly in this case you were, then you have nothing to worry about. So if you can't follow your own message, I don't know what to tell you. If you can't follow your own shit, then perhaps you should get off the pot. Anyway, Donna's pissed off, not necessarily because Samantha got fired. Well, she's upset that Samantha got fired, but she's more pissed off the fact that it's all been being laid on her feet. Like, this woman keeps treating her like shit. So the very next scene, everybody is on the roof having this discussion. Harvey, Donna, Alex, and Lewis. And they are beyond the limit. Like, they're done. Absolutely done. They're more done than they were when she fucked over the first time. Now they're really done. And they're ready to kick her ass to the curb. They're willing to do whatever it takes. Like, whatever it takes. Even if it has to be the most squirrely, unsurly, shady shit that they have to do. Even freaking choir boy, Boy Scout Alex is willing to cross a line to do whatever he's got to do. Which is, that's saying something. Because Alex is not the type of person to want to cross lines. Especially considering the storyline from only a couple of episodes ago where he was freaking out about going to prison. So for him to say that he's willing to do whatever it takes, that's a big deal. The only one who's kind of not joining in on this bandwagon is Donna. She's worried that they're going to take it to a dark place and they're going to do something that they can't come back from. I understand where she's coming from because I've seen what they've done before in the past when they're pissed off at people and how far they can take it. She worries, I think, that they're going to take it too far. So they each have their own separate assignments and they're each going to figure out how they're going to do this. What they need is to get information from the bar. They can't readily find anything on her like through the normal channels because there's nothing to find on her. But they know she's got to have something very deep. Nobody is 100% clean. Even if they've only done one bad thing, even if they're 99% clean, there's always got to be a 1% there somewhere, right? So they figured the best course of action is to go talk to her husband. Because if she was such a stickler for ethics that she fired her own husband or had the bar suspend her own husband's license to practice law, then, she had him disbarred. His license wasn't taken away. He can still practice. He still has, a license. But until he goes through the bar again, he can't really practice law. But the fact that she would do this to her own husband and then, take him for every penny he had when they divorced, it was like really, someone who could be that hardcore can't be completely clean. So they figure the best course of action is to go to her husband to try to get more information about the settlement, because the settlement, their divorce, is sealed. Nobody's ever seen. Nobody knows how much she was awarded or the particulars. If they can find out what the particulars of the settlement are, they could probably find out. They could probably figure out if she did something dirty to get it. They're not sure if he's going to talk. The other problem is they're afraid that he might talk too much. He might be so pissed off at her that he might say whatever he figures he needs to say to make her look worse than she is, like to exaggerate it. So they have to really be careful with how they question him and how they take what he says to make sure that what he's saying is the total truth, because they don't want to. They have to make sure that every I and every T, every I is crossed, and every T is crossed and every I is dotted, completely stem to stern. You can't just bring some shit to the bar without making sure it's 100% infallible, because they will figure it out. And if they do, it's going to make you look even worse than you already are. They can't take that chance. They have to be absolutely certain. So Harvey and Lewis sit down with him, and he tells them that they probably don't know the entire story. Faye was very cagey about what exactly happened. Now, apparently her husband was once in corporate law like them, but then he left corporate law and he went into what they call class action lawsuits. He went into big, high stakes law. He was the defender for people who were a part of class action lawsuits, kind of like what Mike does. He was actually a decent guy who wanted to do right by his clients, but the problem was class action lawsuits, because they incorporate so many people and you have to have so much evidence to prove your claim. It takes a lot of money to get there, like a lot of money. You have to hire experts, do testing, whatever it is that is required to come up with a proof. It was money that he did not have. And so he took money from clients and kind of moved it around into certain places to make it work where it needed to work. I mean, okay, he's a criminal, but he did it for the right reasons. He got found out by Faye. She told the bar had him disbarred, but she made sure that they didn't fire him. He lost his job, but she made sure that they didn't suspend his license. And at first they thought, well, that's probably because she wanted the money. I mean, the timeline adds up. As soon as she disbars him, as soon as she has him disbarred, within some weeks of that, she gets noticed by the bar and they offer this job with a buku-ass paycheck, plus what she's getting from the divorce settlement. So it seems to them like she forced her husband into a position where he had no other choice, all to get more money. Because if he had tried to fight her on the settlement, she could have made his life even worse than she'd already made it. She could have had his license completely revoked. She had a lot of leverage on him she could have used, but she said she wouldn't do it if she got more money. So basically, she blackmailed her own husband for more money, and the bar did not know about any of this. And she also used it to get a job. She knew the bar would notice her if she did something big like that. And there's nothing false about this. It's absolutely true. That's what they get from the husband. So they think that they have enough, but they need to make sure they have actual documentation. So they know that Gretchen used to work, before she came to work for Harvey, she used to work at Faye's old law firm. So they know she still has contacts there. So Lewis and Harvey come to her together, which is an unusual thing enough as it is, falling on their swords, kind of asking her if she will use her connections to get some actual hardcover proof. And she says she'll do it, but on one condition, that she wants Harvey to throw Lewis a shower for the baby. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, you and I both know. Y'all know that Lewis came to her first. You know he did. And you know that he already told her about all of this. He told her exactly what they were going to need. And he told her to say yes and to ask for the shower. You got to know this. Because even though Harvey initially did not agree to it and thought that she was joking around, she put it to him that he was going to do it because it means a lot to Lewis. He obviously did, because once he agreed and left, Lewis gave her a big hug. So it was like, okay, it was obvious he snuck that one in there. It'll be interesting to see what that shower turns out to be like. Although I have a feeling that he's going to put most of the responsibility on Donna. Well, I don't know. Maybe they'll do it together. But anyway, while this is all going on, Katrina has a new case, and Susan, the gung-ho sort of associate, wannabe associate, is coming to her wanting to help out. She's like, I'm a little busy right now, I got this new case, blah, blah, blah. She says she'll talk to her about it later. Maybe when she has a little more time, they will discuss it. She goes to her office, and who's in her office? Brian has returned. He has come to see her because the case that she's currently working on, he is the attorney on the other side. So he just wanted to make sure that she knew about it, so she wouldn't be, At first, Katrina's like, how did you even get assigned this case? Because one, the client used to be his client when he still worked for the firm before he left. So right that's enough of a conflict. Two is the fact that he used to be her associate, and there's way too much emotional baggage going on between them for them to properly defend or properly work this case, even on opposite sides, especially on opposite sides. She's like, what the hell? You never should have been assigned this case in the first place. I'm going to make sure that you get thrown off of it and somebody else gets assigned. But Brian kind of uses her soft spot for him. And he's like, look, I know I shouldn't have got it, but I'm having a rough time. It hasn't been easy for me over at this new law firm. I've had the transition was difficult. It still kind of is. And if I could get a good result on this case, even if it's not the best, as long as it's a good one, it would up my standing amongst my peers and my bosses. Can you just give me a break here, just this once? And it's against her better judgment. She's like, okay. So apparently this case has to do with a company that Katrina represents. The original founder of the company left the company, and now he's suing them because he's suing the stockholders because they have not given him. He feels that they have not given him the amount of money that he was promised when he exited the company. He claims that they tossed him out, they forced him out, that he didn't want to be forced out, that he wanted to come back, but he couldn't. And now they're not paying him the amount of money that he was obligated to receive. They're claiming that's a bull-faced lie, and that it was his choice to leave in the first place, and that they've honored their end of the deal. So now we got to figure out which side is telling the truth. Susan can't understand why Katrina is going so. Why she's being soft, because normally that's not Katrina's mode. When it comes to defending her client, she's hard-nosed. It doesn't matter who she's up against or who the other side is. But because it's Brian, and this really takes her by surprise, because she was at a point where she was finally starting to get over him and moving on with her life. For a lot of you that have been in a situation like this before, where someone that you, like, you know, they're gone, you're pretty much over them, and then they just somehow out of the woodwork just pop up and assume that you guys can still be friends or go on being the way it used to be. No big deal, right? Like, what the fuck? No, that is a big deal. So, yeah, this is difficult for her because she's trying to move on and he's making it really hard because he's constantly there. That the voicemail, apparently the voicemail that she had told Donna about from last week's episode was having to do with this case. She deleted it because she didn't want to talk to him. He doesn't realize that, though. But further on down in the episode, we'll find out some more details about why Brian did what he did, which is kind of not kosher. But anyway, she agrees to let Susan help her with the case. And I think it's not just because Susan's good at what she does, but because I think she knows that Susan will keep her honest. And we'll make sure that she doesn't do anything stupid. So, while that's going on, our third plot line has to do with Samantha. Samantha is ass out. First time we see her, she's at the gym again. This is what she normally does. She boxes her shit out whenever she gets frustrated or angry. And now she doesn't know what to do. So she's doing what Samantha Wheeler knows how to do. Come at it, guns blazing. She's going to do whatever it takes to get her job back. If that means destroying Faye, she will destroy Faye. So what she decides to do is she decides to have a conversation with the FBI agent. If you remember a couple episodes ago, early in the season, or maybe it was last season. No, yeah, it was last season, yeah. Where they had a flashback from eight years ago where we find out just why it is that Samantha had been in the deep shit she was in. That the FBI had thought she had done something that she didn't do. The FBI agent that initially came to her and tried to make a deal with her, whatever, she calls him because she wants him to find dirt on Faye. While she's at the gym considering this option, Robert Zane shows up because he heard what happened and he wants to make sure that she's okay. She doesn't really want to talk about it, but he's like, fat chance, whatevs, girlfriend, we're going to talk. You're not walking out the door until we have a combo. So she tells him exactly what happened in no uncertain terms, that it was Harvey's fault. He hadn't opened his fucking mouth, and if they had had this conversation elsewhere where Faye hadn't heard it, this wouldn't have even happened. And now she's stuck. So she's freaking out because she's afraid that she's not going to be able to get her job back. And it's more than just losing her job. For her, it's losing her family. The way she describes it later on in the episode is that when she was a kid in the foster care system, every time she started to feel comfortable with a foster family, every time she was at a point where she was okay emotionally and she was starting to consider them family and feel comfortable, they would send her back. And unfortunately, this is not an uncommon thing for kids in foster care. They get uprooted constantly. Just as they're starting to feel comfortable in an environment with decent people, if they're lucky. And, they have a good, comfortable roof and a bed and food, and they feel right about where they're at. Just as they're starting to settle into a new school and make new friends, boom, they're sent to a different place. And that's why the foster kids work so hard to please the people they're with, because they don't want to have to keep moving around. Or worse yet, if the foster home can't be found for them, they're stuck in a group home, which is even worse. She's desperate to stay at this firm. She's now fully felt comfortable enough to call them family and to consider them family. And she does not want to lose that. It terrifies her, the idea of losing them. So she's fighting tooth and nail to find a way back in, and she's terrified that Harvey is not going to follow through his promise to make sure that this is fixed. But Zane assures her that Harvey's not the type of person to back down. That if he says he's going to fix it, he'll fix it. Later that day, so he convinces her to power down, just a smidge, just a smidge. Take a breath, go home, relax, let them take care of it. Cows her for a bit, but you can tell she's on edge, and that if she doesn't see results soon, she's gonna lose shit. So Zane goes to see Harvey at the firm and is straight up with him like, look, you fucked up and caused her to lose her job. And he's like, well, wait a minute, she's the one that manufactured evidence. Yeah, but what she lost her job for is shit that you've done how many times? How much shit have you done that you should have lost your job like 5,000 times over already? Yeah, you can shut the fuck up right now. Which, makes sense. Because Harvey has done some shitty shit. Anyhow, so he's like, you will find a way to get her back, but please don't do it in some way that's going to kick her in the ass later on. Like, whatever you do it, but do it right. And he promises that he will find a way. So this is the point where things start to shift. At first in the episode, everyone was all about fucking Faye over, like doing whatever it took to get her out, no matter what. Even Alex. But as the episode wears on, there's a point where they start to realize, what are we doing? Lewis at first was all for it, but now he's not so sure because he's realizing that they're about to compromise themselves. Because they cannot be 100% sure that this will work with the bar. And if it doesn't, even if they're 98% sure, there's still that 2% right there where they're not entirely certain. And if even just like the most tiny fraction of uncertainty is there, of the possibility that the bar might not bite, and they are not successful, they will lose everything. They are teetering on a very thin line as it is with the bar. So if they come to them with some shit on Faye that doesn't work, or it turns out to be false, because whatever the husband said wasn't true, then they're fucked. Like, they will lose whatever good graces they have left, which is not much. So Lewis is kind of like, okay, I know we wanted to do this, and I know this was a solid plan, but it's not 100% solid, Donna from the start has not been certain about this because she doesn't feel right about destroying anybody. Even if Faye is a shrew from hell, nobody deserves to be destroyed. So, while they're kind of trying to figure out how to do this without making the situation worse, the FBI agent comes to Alex, or she calls him, and they meet, and he says that he'll give her what she wants, but he has to give her, or she's got to give him something in return. Now, if you remember from last season, Alex has a client, one that they kind of fought over who was going to get. He's that shady guy that runs that charter airline business. He was the one that wanted Alex's help with that, $3-4 million painting that he said was a family heirloom, and it really just turned out to be an investment. Like, he's a real shady dick. This is the guy that Samantha wanted to keep as a client because she knows how he works. She's been working with him since she was with Zane. He's got a folder this thick on her of the shit that she's done, mostly for him. And it's kind of his leverage on her if she ever tries to pull any shit on him. So when she lost him as a client and Alex took over, he's assuming that Alex is going to do whatever he wanted, but he's forgetting Alex is not like that. So he calls Alex. Basically, she goes to Alex and says, look, this is what he wants, but I don't know how to do this without making myself look, without, you know, giving him the ammunition to go to the FBI. Because if he finds out that if I go to him and do whatever it is that he wanted me to do in order to bring him out, if I turn him over to the FBI myself, all he has to do is give him that file, and I will go to prison for the rest of my life for all of the stuff that she's done, that he has on her. So her only option, or their only option at this point, is for Alex to do the legwork, since he's Alex's client. He goes to Alex, and apparently this asshole is now saying that his niece is blackmailing him for millions of dollars because she found out that he's using this business to launder money. Now that she knows about his shady enterprise, she wants all this money in order to keep her mouth shut. And now Samantha didn't exactly know what he wanted from her. He's trying to get Alex to do it, but Alex is like, look, I'm your lawyer, but you already know that I have my limits about what I will and won't do. You might have been able to get one over on Samantha and compile that folder on her, but you ain't gonna compile one on me. You can forget that shit. So he says to him, look, if you want Samantha to do it, I might be able to arrange a meeting between you two, but your folder of, your la-di-da folder is going to have to go away because she's not going to do some shit for you with that hanging over her fucking head. So he's like, okay, fine. We'll at least meet. He's got something up his sleeve, but he's like, all right, we'll at least meet about it. So the two of them meet, and he tells her that he needs his niece paid off or whatever evidence that she has, or tape. He needs something to prove that she's bribing him, because that would be his leverage on her. This way, if she tries to come at him after he pays her, if she tries to come at him for more money, he can just be like, tape, bitch, tape. You want to get more money from me, I'll just make this tape go public and you're fucked. Because, you can go to jail for bribery. For blackmail. Wow, some family, right? So she says she'll get him this tape. And she'll even make sure that the girl gets paid, but she wants payment as well. $5 million. He's like, really? $5 million fucking dollars? That's a lot. No, that's not. Because if you don't have this tape, you can give her 5 now, and she will take you for 50 million later. Believe me. As long as she knows she has this on you, she will make you pay the rest of your life. So $5 million one time, to me, to make this go away forever, is chump change. Yeah, I think so. Mm-hmm. Call me. So all of that has been recorded. She has all of this. So she's going to turn this information over to the police, over to the FBI, thinking that they will give her this dirt on Faye. So when Donna realizes what Harvey and them have planned, she is really not sure if this is the right idea for them to do this. Because initially, Faye comes to her and says, because of course Faye knows. She has people that work where her husband works. She has people that she contacts at her old law firm. You think they're not going to keep in touch with her? Of course they are. So they let her know that Harvey and Lewis were sneaking around and talking to her ex-husband. So she goes to Donna, and she lays it all out for Donna. She's like, look, I know I said that I'm a hard ass when it comes to crossing lines. I only crossed a line once, and it was for my family. The reason I did what I did, forcing him out but allowing him to keep his license, was so that my daughter would not find out her father was a criminal. She apparently stayed, she took the job, but she didn't take a salary for 3 months while her husband was working out whatever deal he had to work out to keep from going to jail, I guess. Also, that it wouldn't go in the papers, and that her daughter would not find out that her father had committed a crime. She also, in order to keep the divorce amicable, straightforward, and quick, so that the daughter wouldn't have to suffer any more than she already was, she just laid the terms out straight and said, look, you really can't argue about this. I already saved you from going to prison. And you still have your license to practice law, even though you've been disbarred. So you could still go to another state and practice law. Be lucky you have that. You have that much. So for the sake of our kid, give me what I fucking asked for. See, they thought that she got that money plus the salary being on the bar on top of that. She didn't, not at first. She waited till she stayed on at the law firm, at her husband's law firm, for 3 months because she wanted to make sure that all of her husband's clients were whole, that all those cases were complete, that the clients got what they wanted, and that they weren't screwed over in the long run by her husband going to possibly go into prison or being stuck in court. She actually did what she did to make sure that her clients were, that the job was done. She was trying to make things right. For the clients, for her child, for her husband, for herself. She didn't take a salary while she worked there and ironed all that out. She did all that work for his clients, making them whole for free for 3 months. That's how long it took before she was able to leave the law firm and go to work for the bar. So her asking for the money that she got from the settlement is pretty much payback for 3 months of busting her fucking ass to make sure that his clients weren't left in the fucking lurch. So it's really not a horrible thing, what she did. Yeah, it's crossing the line a bit because she wasn't upfront with the bar, but it wasn't like horrible. So once Harvey realizes this, at first he's like, I don't even give a shit because she's destroyed our firm and now she's out. Donna tells Lewis. So Lewis goes to find Harvey. Harvey's in the bathroom. And he's like, Lewis is in the bathroom. Harvey comes in. And he tells Lewis what he found out about what Faye actually did. The fact that the husband didn't tell the entire truth. Because the parts about her working for the law firm for free without taking a salary in order to keep the clients whole, and then also in order to salvage her daughter's visage of her father. Lewis is like, oh shit. And if we go public with this with the bar, it'll destroy her family, her reputation, all of it. Harvey, it's like, I don't give a shit. But Lewis does give a shit because he doesn't feel that it's right. It's not necessarily because of Faye, because there's a kid involved here who is innocent, doesn't deserve to have her father's name dragged through the mud, But Harvey's approaching this from a different perspective, which we find out through Donna, because when Donna comes to see Harvey about it, she doesn't understand why he's going so hardcore against Faye when it's obviously the wrong way to go. But when he comes clean with her about the fact that it was his fault that Samantha got fired because he went and had this fight with her, in broad daylight in front of God and the world, where he could have gone anywhere else to have this fight with her, like he said, up on the roof, in the parking lot, in the bathroom. But he chose to have it where Faye could see it. And she overheard the whole thing, that it was his fault. And he feels such a tremendous sense of guilt that she lost her job over this. He promised her something that he wasn't entirely certain that he could deliver. And he really can't. Because, he could do what he says that he's going to do. And what they have on her is pretty straightforward. I mean, they got her. If they took that to the bar, she'd pretty much be done. But at the same time, if they did, it would destroy her family's life. It would destroy her daughter. To know what her father had done, So Donna reminds him, that's not the guy that I know you are, the guy that I know you can be. You're better than this, which is true. We all know that Harvey's better than this. She says to him, how many times have you thought about, the possibility that how much you wish you could go back to that day you walked in from school, you walked into your house after school and caught your mom doing what she was doing with the other guy? How many times have you wished you could go back and change that day so it would never have happened? You would never have had to feel that hurt and that pain and that sense of guilt anymore. And you could tell by the look on his face, that he gets it. And surely Faye wishes that she could go back and fix it, but she can't. It is what it is. So that's when Harvey realizes that they really can't. They can't do this. You could do it, but would you really be able to look at yourself in the mirror? Would you really be able to sleep at night? Honestly. So, yeah. Faye thanks her, but she's like, look, I really didn't do it for you. I did it for Samantha and for everybody else. So I think Faye knows that she's toting the thin line. There's only so much farther that she can push them before they won't give a damn anymore. Back on the Katrina train, Susan tells Katrina that in order to get the information they need about the client, they have to figure out whether or not the client really did want to leave the company or not. This will determine whether or not he was lying about being trussed out, being pushed out. And the only way that you can get that information is through his personal emails at work. She didn't feel right about diving into somebody's personal information, but Susan's like, look, you do it all the time here. You did it when Brian worked here with cases that you had. This is no different. She's like, why are you going soft? If this was anybody else, you would have already done this. Actually, you would have had Brian Truss off this case. This wouldn't even be an issue. But, because it's Brian. So she decides that they will go into court the next morning and they will file a motion to get the emails. She shows up 15 minutes late because she's having another one of her migraines. It's usually brought on by outside stress, and this time it's been brought on by Brian. So they're in the judge's chambers discussing it, and she's having a lot of trouble answering the questions. Brian knows immediately what is going on because he's worked with her for a long time. He knows how she is. He knows when she's not feeling well. So he kind of makes an excuse here and there, whatever. He manages to pussyfoot his way around it. Susan also manages to back her up, but the judge is not impressed. She's like, now you're having your associates speak for you? Like, what the hell? Can't you deliver your own? Could you do your job? But she's in so much pain right now that she can barely see straight. It's a wonder she didn't collapse. She's in so much pain she can't even open her mouth and form words. So the judge, he could have argued more hard. He could have argued harder against it, but he kind of didn't. He kind of just let it. He kind of went soft on it, which made the judge grant permission for her to get her hands on the emails. And Susan goes over the emails and she does find proof. An email discussion that he had with a friend about how he was going to buy a boat with the settlement that he was supposed to get from leaving the company, which means that he didn't care about leaving the company. He wanted the money. Yes, he might miss it now, but that didn't mean that they forced him out. He left of his own accord. He was definitely lying. So she was initially going to try and soft shoe it, but Susan was straight up with her and was like, look, you know this isn't right. We could have had his ass in a sling if you were thinking right. But because it's Brian, you're kind of pussyfooting this and soft shoeing it. That's not right. You might have a soft spot for Brian, but you still have to do your job. So she decides that Susan is right. And she's going to give Brian two options. He can either drop the case or they will file a motion to dismiss. And she will have to make sure to put in why, which could get Brian. She'd have to describe why in her reasoning, which could get Brian in some trouble if he's not careful. So, what's even more fucked up is that when Brian shows up to discuss it, he says to her that she realizes that he was never actually assigned the case by the partners. He just took it. And because he missed her, he wanted to see her. And I'm like, what the fuck, dude? You're married with a kid. You need to move the fuck on and give her the chance to move on. Like, seriously, dude. He had this assumption that they could just do this job and then go back to what they were before. And I'm like, whoa, no. There's a reason why she didn't answer your voicemail, son. She's really trying very hard to move on. And this is when she really puts her foot down. She's like, you either drop this case or I will have you removed from it. You never should have had it in the first place. This case should never even have been made a case. And you know it too. You knew that he was lying the entire time. You just wanted to keep it going so you could spend time with me? Are you fucking kidding me right now? So eventually he does drop it. And that's probably going to be the last time that they'll see each other until they're well and truly able to just be friends or be professional in each other's presence. He didn't seem to understand why she didn't want him around. She's like, look, I don't mind being friends with you, but I can't do it right now. I need to make sure that I have been able to move on. I can't do that if you were still here. And you obviously haven't. You have a wife and a kid. You need to go home. You need to get back to your life. Find a way to move on. And let me move on myself. And then once we do, and we're ready to just be friends, then maybe we will revisit this in the future. But not right now. So that's the end of that particular plot line. On Samantha's side of the story, she goes to the FBI agent. She has the proof ready. She's going to meet him by herself. But Robert shows up because he's not letting her get fucked over by the FBI. Because this guy has come at her before. And he has stuff, or he assumes that he has stuff on her. And he's afraid this guy is going to try to use it. Or do something, or pull one over on her and make her life already more miserable than it already is. So he has paperwork ready, already set, that all the FBI guy is going to do is sign it. To ensure that once she turns this over, that she will not be turning it over until she is given immunity for whatever the client has on her. Because she knows, they all know that once she turns this over and he figures out that it was her that did it, that he will give them his file on her and she can go to jail. So unless she has this signed documentation that says that they will not prosecute her for whatever's in that folder, she can give them shit. And the guy's like, oh my God, you're Robert Stain. You're not even an attorney anymore. Like, what the fuck, dude? Move on. He's like, look, I may not be an attorney in this state, but I can still type up a legal document. And you have to sign it. He's like, no, I don't have the authority. Bullshit, you don't have the fucking authority. You're the FBI. Yes, you fucking do. And you're going to sign it or she ain't giving you. or she ain't giving you dick. You do want this information, right? I mean, you came to her for it, right? You couldn't get it anywhere else? Yeah, I thought so. So he signs it. She turns it over, thinking he's going to give her what she asked for about Faye. But they don't have anything. Now, I couldn't tell if it was because they generally couldn't find anything, or if it was because he didn't even bother. Because the way that he made it sound, it was kind of ambiguous as to whether he actually did the work. But considering that the firm did its own heavy-handed work, and they weren't able to find anything either, and Gretchen did her own work, and you know how deep Gretchen's contacts go, and she couldn't find anything either. So, really, it's true. Faye is squeaky clean, except for this one thing she did, which is kind of difficult to prove, and all for the sake of her daughter. Other than that, she's completely squeaky clean. So now, Samantha's left with Diddly Dick. And she is freaking the fuck out. She's ready to march her sorry ass into the firm and fuck Faye's world up. Somehow. Which will probably land her straight in jail. But Zane manages to talk her down from it. They sit down in that diner and they have a long talk. And it's not till she's calmed down and she knows what she needs to do that he allows her to leave. He doesn't want her to do anything stupid. She goes to see Harvey. And, well, Harvey's still in the office. She comes back to the office. And he comes to see her to make sure she's okay and to apologize for fucking her over, basically. And giving Faye the ammunition. But she says he doesn't have anything to feel guilty about. I mean, yeah, he shouldn't have yelled at her in front of God and country, but the fact is she did wrong, and now she's paying the price for the first time in her life. She's paying the price for her fuck up. She always knew that one day it was going to come back around to bite her in the ass, and it has. So now she's got to kind of take it. And she explains to her the reason why she was fighting so hard to stay was because she's terrified of not being there. She can see that place and there's people in the family. And it's very hard for her to not be there. Because when she was in foster care, like I said, every time she settled into to a foster home, as soon as she was settled and felt comfortable, they sent her back, or she was sent to a different place. So she's fighting tooth and nail not to lose this place. And then she comes clean to Harvey, telling him that she did a DNA test and she found her biological father. Apparently he lives in Pittsburgh. She originally was going to ask Robert to go with her to go meet him, but he is going to Seattle to visit Mike and Rachel. So she's kind of asked out. She wants to go see him, but she doesn't want to go alone. She doesn't feel comfortable and she's kind of scared. So Harvey's like, well, I could use a break from Faye. So how about I pick you up in the morning and we make it a road trip? Which kind of feeds into what we already know is going to happen in episode 7. This is going to be Harvey and Samantha's, part of it's going to be Harvey and Samantha's road trip to go meet her father for the first time. I think it's going to be a real turning point for Samantha as a character. And we're probably going to find out more about her beginnings, why she was adopted, maybe learn more about her mom. Hopefully get some background on her, because she's the one character we don't really have a lot of background about. Just to let you all know, there is no new episode next week. I'm assuming that's because it's Labor Day weekend, so they're not putting anything new out. That's normal for this time of year. They are rerunning the pilot, and then the following week we will have episode 7, 8, 9, 10. So there will be no review next week. I'm going to have a week off because there will not be a new episode. But I may put something else up. I don't know, maybe I'll do my first 80s retro review, nostalgia review. I actually have some 80s stuff I can show now, so I might do that in place of a Suits review. So that's pretty much it. That is episode 7 in a nutshell. episode 6 in a nutshell. It was definitely not what I was expecting. I really thought they were going to go hardcore against Faye and just like fuck her world up, and they somewhat kind of did, but they surprisingly pulled back. They pulled back because they realized it has really surprised me how in the last couple of seasons, I would say from like the latter half of season 7 on, how they have really turned a corner as a firm and as lawyers and as people. Because you remember when the show first started, there was nothing they wouldn't do to defend a client, even if it was shady shit, super shady shit. And now they really don't want to be that kind of firm anymore. They're kind of starting to have that realization that Jessica did before she left, that they want to be better, that they can be better, that what they've been doing is wrong, and that they need to fix it. And if Faye has taught them anything, even though they don't like her, if Faye has taught them anything, it's that they need to own their mistakes. They need to own their shit, step up, and be better. Otherwise, they're going to lose everything that they worked so hard for. Well, that's another episode in the can, guys. I will be coming at you in 2 weeks' time with a review for episode 7. You may see me next week with a review for something else entirely. I don't know. We'll see when it happens, I guess. All right, guys. Have a good night. Peace out, yo.
Good night.